Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine, the internet's #1 comedy podcast, all about the ways that the internet is changing culture and so much more. John Maloney. Welcome back to the show, John Maloney. There's been one story all about the ways that the internet is changing culture and so much more this week. You've seen it, I've seen it. Anybody that has a social media account will likely have seen it. And I think the first time that I saw it, I clicked open my TikTok and there was an image of a woman at a press conference in what looked like a South Asian country, and the headline on the image read something along the lines of 33-year-old American woman refuses to leave Pakistan and demands $100,000 from the government after being left at the altar by a 19-year-old who she met on the internet. And I just started dusting my hands off and I said, well, that's our show done for the week.
Yeah.
So, Don, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Well, you have, because you wrote to me and you said
this, and you said I'm way ahead of you.
We said, what should we talk about this week? What's going to make a clickable thumbnail? And then we did a little bit of back and forth. And
to the thummy. That's us now.
We are. Yeah. There were some quite important topics that we could have covered, which may have made other people's lives better, but then we realized they didn't make good thumbnails. We've taken a Mr. Beast approach to life and podcast. I take Mr. Beast approach to life, where when people invite me to
make
things,
any decision,
I go,
you say
that's just not going to make there's no package there.
Whenever you think, should I take this job? Should I leave this job? Should I make this new friend? You think, how would I put this in a thumbie, and would it be a clickable thumbie? If no, that's my answer.
Should I go to the wedding? Should I donate to this charity? When street fundraisers ask me for money with their little jangly buckets, I scratch my head and I just go, what would be the title of this under 70 characters? And what are we thinking? Like me with a kind of shocked expression, and then you angrily jangling the bucket, and then I start going, actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
We could give you some of those greasy YouTube style animated tears, and the guy's just saying, "Sorry, what do you mean?"
That'd be great. Or maybe me sort of like shocked, big face. This could be the frame here. I could be off like this. And then there's like a street fundraiser with a bucket of cat chasing after me, and the title under 70 characters, like he couldn't believe I did it. Oxfam couldn't believe I did
it. This man would stop at nothing to get my subscription to his charity. Or you get a girl asking you, do you want to go to dinner at this place? And you go, well, what would we even say about it? What would that even look like in a thumbnail? I mean, us just having dinner, nobody's going to click on that. Maybe if we ate like some kind of record-breaking food, or you threw up, something.
What about a person just angrily shaking their street fundraiser, angrily shaking their fist with a jangly bucket, and it just says, "I'm being sued by World Vision" is the title. Thumbnail. So this week's thumbnail is so far the most internet story I think of 2025. It has all of the ingredients of a viral sensation that when you see the videos, you step back and you go, this is so weird and entertaining, and then you go, if you're like me, you go, why is this just the thing? And it has all the ingredients. But we got to step back a little bit, John, and I got the notes here as well, so we can back and forth here. But maybe if you have a little bit of information on my brand new person, Onijah, maybe you could explain. I think a really good kind of don't praise the machine angle to take is that if we just always introduce these stories by explaining them to my parents, and my parents represent the kind of average. They're the Michael Barbaro of the podcast audience. So
and they sit at home going, huh.
My mum and daddy going, huh. I never thought of it like that.
Marie and Stephen, lovely to be with you again. And let me when I tell you a little bit about this, you're going to probably pause the podcast because you won't be able to wait to get on.
They'll pause it. I will also say, I'll jump in as well. They will also be, I don't think they'll mind me saying this. They'll be listening to it in their they bought a new car this week and it has a really funky sound system. I better just do that. It has a very funky sound
system from Bose. Bose, thank you for sponsoring Marie and Stephen's brand new electric car.
So they got a they've I don't think they've ever bought a brand. It's not a brand new car.
When you buy
affiliate links.
Bose product, just enter the code Onijah for your 20% off.
So good. So yeah, they were listening on their new Bose sound system in their electric. They got a what do you call it? What do you call the display? Like the display. They bought a display X demo.
Oh yeah,
they bought an X
We've
demo.
Got an X demo.
So the one that I guess gets test driven.
I've got an X demo, and I had the wonderful experience actually of listening to the podcast for the first time in a car that I wasn't driving, but I was it was my car, and I was sitting there listening to the podcast. I thought this is quite a milestone, and it was paid for obviously by the podcast, so that was very gratifying.
Yeah, one of the 3 cars that you own that was paid for by the podcast.
So
it's that was your regular car. It wasn't your golden rocket ship car that you're
my one that's just shaped like a giant microphone.
Golden microphone. Call this like tapping the hood going, I call this baby the Kyle Sandylands.
We'll have to get back to Kyle. He's having brain surgery. Poor old Kyle Sandylands. But
no.
Look,
there's so many jokes I could make there. I'm just going to leave until we do that.
But anyway, speaking of not being particularly empathetic, here, this is a story, Marie and Stephen, about somebody whose name was Onijah Andrew Robinson. And she was a woman, I think in her early 30s, 32, according to some reports. And she became a viral sensation initially in Pakistan, in Pakistani media. And then, of course, as these things tend to happen, it spread around the world like wildfire, particularly through clips of the incident on TikTok, and various Pakistani TikTok people were kind of acting as go-betweens, explaining what was going on to a wider audience. And what seems to have occurred is that Onijah, who unfortunately is a little bit mentally unstable, I suppose, or has perhaps some psychological difficulties, she started an online relationship basically amounting to catfishing with a 19-year-old Pakistani whose name was Nidal Ahmed Memon, and she was using some sort of filter. Now, Nidal may not have been the most savvy. He was a trusting young man looking for love, and she was using a filter that made her look like a blonde white woman. In fact, she was a black woman from the US, and I think she was probably not completely upfront about the age difference between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And so she came to Pakistan. I think she found his house. I mean, I presume he gave her his address. And then his parents freaked out and said, you can't be consorting with a woman from America twice your age. And so we're going to, and obviously she was a little bit erratic as well and quite insistent, and ended up camping outside their house. And sorry, that's my child in the background. And
It's fine. It's very cute. It's the first time that I've heard this. Now I'm starting to feel guilty for making just the contrast between like, my daughter's just crying, but I just
anyway,
need to talk about this internet meme.
It's okay. It's right here. Shh. Daddy, trying to put food on the table for this family.
Daddy's talking about Onijah again.
Exactly. And so she came to Pakistan. She was camping out. They left the house to go somewhere else, and nobody quite knows where they've gone, according to the reports that I've read. But anyway,
I love that. I love that they fled.
They just hightailed it. She stayed out
in their own country. Their own country, like they're the ones that fled.
Then she stayed, kept camping. Obviously, in Karachi, a sort of Black American woman camping out front of somebody's house attracted some attention, and then she started doing these press conferences where, and I'm not sure if this was before or after this happened, but what happened was this Pakistani philanthropist got involved and was kind of keen to help her to go back to America, which was nice because she's obviously not in great form, but she was really resistant to doing that, and then hosted a series of kind of very strange and bombastic press conferences with a kind of sweetly obliging but absolutely baffled Pakistani audience, where she starts raving about, shouldn't be too stick the boot in, because obviously again she's not in the right frame of mind, but she started talking about how she wanted to bring order to the streets of Karachi. She wanted to spend money upgrading the roads and infrastructure. She needed $20,000 in cash by the end of the week, and she wanted the government to give her $100,000 to fix up the country. The kind of thing that Kanye West might say in a conference if he went to Karachi.
Yeah.
And so this obviously just attracted more and more attention. Then, as I say, it kind of had a breakthrough international audience. But I think what I love about it is just the sheer culture clash of her sounding off in this very kind of forthright way, and this audience just trying to make head or tail of what she's talking about. And they're obviously from two very different cultures. She seems to, in some of the later videos, have like a minder who's helping her kind of translate. But this person is probably, for all I know, a person associated with a philanthropist, or maybe somebody associated with, the police or border officials who's like trying to help her out of the country, but she treats them like they're her kind of posse. And she's very commanding in these interviews, and sort of anyone starts talking over her or asking questions at a time she doesn't want, she just tells them to fuck off and shut up. And it's like some sort of weird, it's like if you think about those moments in history where there's like first contact between two totally different cultures. It's kind of like that in a modern TikTok-y context, and I love it. It's as much as I don't really understand why I'm watching it, as soon as I see one of those things crop up on social media, I'm like, yeah, that might be one I haven't seen. I need to get into it.
It's so, like all the things that work so well on the internet, it's very layered, and you can you can start to pick up the layers quite quickly. And then if you want to dive a bit deeper, like I did in preparation for this story, but to be honest, most of the details that make this story interesting, I was able to just gather from watching a handful of 30-second TikToks. Like it was quite obvious that what had happened was it's just this total fish out of water story where you have, and it's also, it's like really visually compelling because it's an African-American woman wearing a head covering, and she's in, and even the quality of the video lets you know, okay, this is not in this is in Pakistan or India or something or Sri Lanka. And then she's at these press conferences where there's just like, I mean, I've seen footage of these press conferences where there's like 20 or 30 cameras and like a table, and the table is literally like the only table they could find, so it's
like
just really out of place,
sort of
like a trestle table that a family might have.
It reminds me of these kind of grassroots election campaigns that you sometimes get in places like Pakistan, where it's all everyone's kind
Totally.
of smushed into this space. Sometimes there's like people in military garb, and I don't really understand what their role is there. And then there'll be some guy who looks like he might be a kind of, a senior community figure, perhaps an imam, and then in the midst of all that, there's this woman just sounding off about how the roads need to be fixed up, and she's going to do it. And it's like, what? What do you think you're doing here?
Yeah. And then it's the culture clash, and she, like, I remember so I think what happened was it started appearing on TikTok because the Pakistani media had started covering her. I guess what had happened is that she arrived in Karachi in October, and then she went to her to-be husband's house, and then he was like, what the fuck is this? Like, apparently it was expecting a blonde woman and probably around about his same age. And then his family's gone. I just love the image as well of her sort of banging on the family's door going, your son needs to come out and marry me. And they're just like so freaked out. They just closed the house up and fled.
In the press conferences, we're having a baby. I live in Pakistan now.
Yeah. We're going to move to Dubai together, which sounds like there's a sweet lie. I don't blame her for wanting that life. It's pretty good. I mean, Dubai's a real happening place right now. And so, the family flees. Infinity pool. So the family flees. And then I guess she just is like camped out because I don't know where the fuck she was like sleeping. And then obviously she was quite an unusual sight for Pakistanis, and the media, I'm sure, are just looking for stories to tell. So they go, wow, this is very unique. We've not seen this before. So they, I guess, start covering her, and she starts making relationships, like you say, with this philanthropist whose name I think is his name Ramzan Chipper, who's been trying to help her get back to the States. And that was the philanthropist that was helping her. She also has quite a sort of terse back and forth with him in different videos as well, which I love, that he's trying to help her get back to America, and he's sort of explaining the media, we're going to try and help her. And then he's just like, sister, would you please come sit down? And she just stands up. She goes, I'm done with you. Be quiet. And he's just going, please, sister, please come and sit down. And she's going, I'm chilling now. I'm not talking to you. Step back. And so what makes it so TikTok-y? So I think what happened was Pakistani media started covering it. And then I think like Pakistani TikTok started uploading the videos, and then American TikTok, because she'd been there since October. And so then these Pakistani social media videos started bleeding into the US, and then the US audience was like, why is this American woman in Pakistan doing these weird press conferences? And then it's so compelling from the moment that you see it. It opens, and there's these bewildered journalists going, what are you doing in Pakistan? Can you tell us a bit more of your story? And then she gives them back this like very American kind of attitude, this sort of brash, almost like confrontational, fuck you, I'm gonna get what I want kind of, which doesn't, it's clearly not like a Pakistani
it's just breaking the script. Totally.
And she's breaking the script, and she's sort of making all of these demands of them, which is just insane, I want $100,000 to fix the roads and whatnot. And you're just going, what is that? What has happened here? I need to understand a little bit more about this. And then she starts, she'll start the press conference, and she'll get her message across, and she'll be quite accommodating when they ask her the kind of questions that she wants to answer. But then if they ask her anything like, that she doesn't want to answer, like, they'll say, like, what are you doing in Pakistan? When are you leaving? And she's just like, that's none of your business. I'm chilling. And so it's just, you just feel like you're watching something from the States, but it's like at this weird press conference in front of a high school in Pakistan, and she's wearing a headdress. And she's just like being really like confrontational, then just going, that's none of your business. I'm not answering that. I'm not at liberty to say that. I'm chilling. I'm chilling right now.
And she keeps, sometimes she goes,
go, wow, this is pure internet.
She goes to her kind of minder. She's like, yes. And then the minder translates, and then she kind of gives them back this fairly confrontational reaction or explanation or refusal to explain. But the whole thing could not have happened. Obviously, it couldn't have come to light in the same way without social media, because it just gets.
Well, I mean, and she wouldn't have met her husband without the internet.
Yeah, she's there because of an online relationship, and now she's famous because of those same channels kind of expanding outwards. And I wonder what's going to happen. Is she just going to fly quietly back to America and we'll never hear about her again? Does she have? I mean, are there people in Pakistan saying
management?
Yeah,
management. Onijah, like this is what Don't Praise the Machine is for. Don't Praise the Machine is all about how do you monetize internet attention. We're talking Island Boys. We're talking Ray Gun. Post Ray Gun, it's all about Onijah. Onijah, what can you flog? What crypto shit coin can you get behind when you get back to the United States? Like, what's her catch? Maybe she's gonna launch it's none of your business coin, something like that. Be quiet coin.
Or she's gonna act as an emissary between the new Trump administration and Pakistan, just help smooth things over.
I think another thing that was sort of like that people, it was so clearly fish out of water, because in the press conference, I think in some of the press conference, she says, I'm just chilling in Pakistani. I love being here in Pakistani. And it's just like, what has happened that you are in Pakistan not knowing the name of the country? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of amazing.
Like, and also, I'm sorry, I just to interrupt. A part of it is also like this. The fascination is like, this is like not a good place to like.
It's not a very easy place to get around.
It's not an easy place to be, and it doesn't have the best reputation for, like safety of people, safety of women. And so it's just like, fuck, are you like, what are you doing over there? Why did you choose to go there?
And how the hell did you kind of get this far? I mean, and where's she staying? Is the philanthropist putting her up in a mansion? I mean, she's really landed on her feet. I give her that. And maybe
I couldn't, it's true actually. I couldn't have done as well as, there's no way I could have like, it's an absolute class in free media attention, because like she's got no money from so far as I can tell. And she's landed in a foreign country that she's landed in like a Muslim country as a African American woman from New York, and she just managed to get like massive media attention not only over there and here. And now, Onijah, you can make absolute bank. What is the next step going to be? What are you going to? Who's paying you to rep their product or service, Onijah?
Yeah. So do yourself a favor and go, I think particularly TikTok's the place to go to watch clips of her, and you can find her even if you forget the name by just putting in that American woman in Pakistan, which in itself tells you that this is really a one-of-a-kind situation. Pretty general search terms.
Man, maybe it'll do wonders for American tourism to Pakistan. Maybe she's proven that actually as an American woman, you'll be treated like a real queen. If you land in Pakistan, you can get press conferences, you can have philanthropists, you can have wealthy philanthropists helping you out.
Maybe the philanthropist is playing the long game, and he's going to say, look, I know things didn't work out with the 19-year-old. What about you and me? Try and make this strange odd couple, perfect strangers type scenario work. Will you be my Balky?
I'd love. Oh, will you be my Bronson Pinchot? Sometimes the world looks perfect, nothing to rearrange. just the two of them like running around like you need some kind of change. That was the main thing I had on my docket, John. Did you have any? There's another thing I have on that's just about another. Mine's quite. The second one I had was quite TikTok-y as well. Or do you want to go straight into the and so much more part of the podcast? And then you just pick.
Can I just?
Yeah, go do it. And so much. Maybe can I introduce?
Sorry, you go. You want to do it? And so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, I just do these real-time stings that I'm doing with my what could we make it say? So like it can, because it can't just be that I say and so much more. What could it be? So I could say
You could do the whole tagline. So you say a comedy podcast about how the internet is changing culture and so much more, and then just put that on an accelerating loop so that it goes and so much more.
I could go. I could put the delay on, and I could just and everybody. This is the part of the show that this is the part. Don't praise the machine that we call,
and so much more, and so much more.
That's good. That's great.
So this is a part of the show that because the show's all about the way that the internet is changing culture, but it also includes and so much more. And John keeps writing to me and just going, "Can we make this week all about and so much more?" And I go, no, people cannot open the YouTube video and it just starts with uncontacted tribes after.
It's just me giving life tips and looking at weird things. But the thing, I mean, this is somewhat related in a kind of conceptual way, in that it also is an interesting culture clash or mixing of two cultures, and it involves the world of Hollyweird, which we love to talk about.
Please.
And also Hollyweird sellouts, which we love to talk about. So we've spoken on the show before about, things like somebody like Beyonce does a concert for, the Sultan of Brunei, and everyone kicks off because she's just done that because he's just driven a truck of money up to her mansion and said, "Do you want to do it?" And she's going, "Oh yeah, why not?" Or, people doing that in all sorts of places, Belarus, etc. World's trouble spots where leaders love to have lavish private parties. And this is kind of in that veins, except it involves everybody's favorite musical film scoreman, Hans Zimmer. And
my fellow countryman.
People will know him. I mean, there's lots and lots of movies that he's done. He did The Lion King, he did Dune, he did the Dark Knight trilogy, etc. And now he's going to be helping the warm and cuddly nation of Saudi Arabia to rework its national anthem. They've approached him and said, presumably they've said, "Can you do this pro bono to help the young and emerging nation of Saudi Arabia?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it."
With their they did the little thing where they I'm just imagining MBS just pulling his little pockets out and they're just empty in the Zoom call with Hans Zimmer. He just goes,
"Yeah, that's right." Cartoon po' boy, and
little flies flying around his head. Just got no money in little empty pockets
over his shoulder. Help us out. So, basically, it's seen as part of the Saudi anthem. Currently, is called Arsh al-Malik, which means "Long Live the King," and it was written in 1947 by an Egyptian composer at the request of the presumably very self-effacing king at the time, and the current version is kind of now a bit dated, obviously, a bit indicative of its era. Not only that, but Saudi Arabia is keen, as we've talked about previously on the show, to tidy up its image a little bit because, it's been associated with some bad things like widespread repression of rights and public executions.
9/11.
Yeah, 9/11, etc. And they are also, of course, it will surprise everyone to know, the world's biggest exporter of oil. Maybe it's because oil is kind of, a little bit 20th century, and they're looking to the future and thinking, we can't rest on those laurels, those oily laurels forever. We need to become more
Greasy laurels.
Those greasy laurels. We need to become a more attractive global citizen. Hans, can you help us out? Can you do us kind of
bitter Hans?
Can you do kind of an epic sounding, sweeping, and it would work. I mean, he could basically just say, yeah, well, the soundtrack to Dune I've done, just use the Harkonnen bit because they're kind of a malevolent desert people, and there you go, done.
That's true. That's true. I wonder if that is part of why they chose him is because they said, look, MBS got his advisors in and said, look, we need a new anthem. What do you think? And everybody said, well, we all loved Dune because it just looked like Saudi Arabia. And so get Hans in. And so
that's,
it needs words.
I guess it needs words. I don't know if he's going to just do the music. I don't know who's going to write it, or if he's going to do the music and the words. That feels like a level of selling out if he has to not just do some strings, but also write some verses praising the merits of Saudi Arabia. But man, he's got a great. I mean, he's the one to do it. We should get him in to fix up Advance Australia Fair, which is also in a state of disrepair, daggy disrepair.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just take Saudi Arabia's old one, change a few words.
They swap.
Hand-me-down national anthems.
I love the idea that you think about national anthems like exchanging players in some kind of sports league. You're just like, oh yeah, we'll have to take. Well, if they get the new Hans Zimmer, then we'll take the old Saudi. We'll trade for the old Saudi anthem.
That's right. Then there's a national anthem going begging. We'll have that.
The national anthem draft. I'm having a look here. Hans Zimmer's top films on IMDb. So I didn't know this. He goes all the way. Number 1 is Rain Man.
There you go.
Back in 1988. All those talking. Hans Zimmer's scoring Rain Man. Treaty, yeah. Interstellar, number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Dunkirk, then 4, you're right, Dune.
Gladiator.
As good as it gets.
Oh, everyone remembers that. With the inimitable Jack Nicholson.
That's right. Fuck, these
could also, I mean, he could be the new face of Saudi Arabia.
That was the song where he made him want to be a better man.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was
what was her name? I forgot her name. Helen
Hunt. She was
Helen Hunt.
Yeah, she's gone quiet lately.
I haven't thought of her for years. I think she got taken away in a twister. She's in the sky, I think. She was in Twister, wasn't she? Wasn't that her?
Probably.
And then
that'd be her thing, yeah. She was famously in Mad About You, which would make a great national anthem. Don't know why I love Saudi Arabia like I do. Tell me who.
There's that scene in 12 in I've just looked at the second film. I was talking about As Good As It Gets, and I was going to say, oh, there's that funny scene in 12 Years a Slave, because it's the film under As Good As It Gets.
That's a great
this is
a sentence. Yeah.
There is As Good As It Gets has that scene, at least this is the one I remember, where they're having this kind of awkward moment, and I think Helen Hunt has been sprayed with a sprinkler or something, and she's chatting with Jack Nicholson, and then she looks down and realizes her t-shirt's all wet, and then she sort of pulls it forward so that you can't see her boobs and nips.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? She goes like, and then she realizes she's exposed, and she goes, and pulls her shirt forward, and it's a kind of a sweet moment. And then he says, you make me want to be a better man.
He says, I'm a much older man with OCD. Do you want to fall in love? And she says, yeah, great.
She goes, hey, it's 1997. Why the fuck not? What about this, John? True Romance. Man, I need to watch that again. That's a great film. True Romance. That's like That's like a I think, what year is Reservoir Dogs? Isn't True Romance like a Tarantino? He's involved, but wasn't it's not a Tarantino film. Is that correct?
That's
True
right.
Romance.
I think he might have produced
Director Tony Scott, writer Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, stars. Listen to this fucking Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper. What a cast.
Yeah, and also that has an amazing soundtrack. Fling, 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 fling.
I love that song. Yeah, that's right.
It's really good.
That it's a sort of oddly jovial little ditty that is the signature song of
for like a really
film.
dark
and there's
film.
that
Which also
fantastic
has, coming full circle,
Yeah.
Bronson Pinchot as a drug dealer.
That's right. He talks about the cola. So you want 12 kilograms of cola. That is true. Bronson Pinchot. Man, talk about a don't praise the machine hero. And you know what? I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this as a jibe, but I'm just saying that, Bronson Pinchot he's not at the height of his Perfect Strangers, he's not a Balky or Serge from Beverly Hills Cop fame.
Yeah.
And I have seen him on a few smaller podcasts, and I love Bronson Pinchot so much. I remember him in a Stephen King straight to TV film called The Langoliers that I watched as a kid, which freaked me the fuck out as a kid. And so I would love Bronson to come on the show, and we'll talk all things Langoliers and True Romance and Beverly Hills Cop.
So can I just
Perfect Strangers.
take you to this scene in Langoliers and say, look, I really don't remember.
I think he's in real estate now. I think he got into the whole I like flip houses, and I'm pretty good at it. I saw him on a podcast. I saw Bronson Pinchot on a podcast explaining where he got the accent for Serge in Beverly Hills Cop, and it's a funny story. It's like a makeup artist or something, and he tells the whole story about the person having that kind of accent.
Yeah.
No, I cannot, because it is true. I just sold this for today, $250,000. Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot, because it is true. Do you want a little espresso with lemon twist? That's the first time I ever heard the word espresso is when I watched Beverly Hills Cop. And he goes,
he told
you. Well, Mr. Well Foley, you want a little espresso with a lemon? It's nice. I'll make it with a little lemon twist. You like it. Bronson, we love you. You know who else is in True Romance? And plays a fantastic character who's like nothing like him, is Gary Oldman.
Wow, yeah.
He plays that like white Rasta drug dealer dude.
That's right.
And he says like, "Yo, we can get some egg roll," because I think he's like such a. And Christian Slater has to go to this like strip club that he owns for some sort of business, like because Christian Slater needs something from him or vice versa, and Gary Oldman's like getting Chinese food. It's one of those nice little kind of Tarantino-esque details where. I think during their meeting, an underling of Gary Oldman's character like delivers them Chinese food. And Gary Oldman's like, or maybe he's eating and he's like, "This is great. You want some egg rolls? You want some egg rolls?" This is Christian Slater.
Such a unique character and such a tribute to Gary Oldman, because you go, how is this the same guy as, all the other things I've seen Gary Oldman do?
Yeah, like that film that we need to do an entire podcast on, even though we'll be the 400th podcast to it, which is that strange film where he plays a little person, and
Is that Gary Oldman? Wow.
Yeah, it's Gary Oldman and Matthew McConaughey in that film that they've just begged everybody to please memory hole.
Forget. Yeah.
Please forget. And I've seen other people talking about that and on podcasts and people showing I forget the guy who's on that podcast called Two Bears, One Cave. He was talking about how he shows people the trailer for that film and they think it's an SNL bit.
Right.
And he had he had Matthew McConaughey on as a guest, and he showed the trailer and said to Matthew McConaughey, he said, like, how the fuck did this film happen? And when I show people this trailer, they think that it's an SNL bit, but
it's called Tiptoes, and it's also
that's right, Tiptoes.
It's also got Kate Beckinsale and Patricia Arquette, so it's a pretty fucking star-studded cast.
And Patricia Arquette from True Romance.
Yeah, there you go.
What is going on here today?
So
My
many,
God, it's
so
all
many associations
coming together.
There you go. They came up with it on the set of True Romance after a couple of keys of cola.
So many keys of cola with It was Bronson's idea. Tiptoes is such a pin. Oh, you know who else is in True Romance? Who I just saw is that I forget his name. He's the guy who a very young. Oh, Brad Pitt is in True Romance, of course. I forgot all
I'm
of
gonna
this.
watch it. I might watch it tonight.
Man,
I'm gonna put Ines
that's
on my
also
lap
on my
and introduce her to some of the writing of young Tarrant.
And Christian and Christopher Walken, because it's Christopher Walken that shoots Dennis Hopper. Because Dennis Hopper, I don't want to spoiler alert people. And then I remember that it's actually I'm thinking about this. The writing is so Tarantino. There's that scene between Christopher Walken who goes into Dennis Hopper because Dennis Hopper is the dad of Christian Slater, and Christopher Walken is looking for Christian Slater, because he needs to kill him or get money from him or something. And then he says, there's this really menacing kind of interview that he has where he kind of kicks the door in, and then he's sitting down with Dennis Hopper, and Dennis Hopper knows that he's going to get killed, but he's like, well, whatever, and he's like smoking a cigarette, and then starts saying, I like to read a lot, and then he says some very offensive things about the Moors, and I'll let you watch that and write me an email
and then see if you can do an essay, compare and contrast True Romance and Tiptoes.
Have you got the description of Tiptoes there, John?
Yeah, sure.
Are you on IMDb?
Okay,
Please
this is
let everybody understand.
Spoiler alert. I'm sorry for the spoiler alert, but the plot is only one paragraph long, which will make it easy to read for present purposes. Carol, a talented painter and independent woman, falls in love with Stephen without knowing much about him other than feeling he is the perfect man. When Carol finds herself pregnant by Stephen, he is forced to expose his darkest secret, his family. Stephen happens to be the only average-sized person in a family of dwarfs, including his twin brother Rolf. Carol and Stephen are then forced to come to terms with the fact that the baby she carries may be born a dwarf. I'm not sure born a little person. I think a person with dwarfism, perhaps. And this terrifies, I don't know, but that just doesn't feel right. This terrifies Stephen, who does not want his child to suffer the same way Rolf did. As Carol decides to carry the child to term, she and Stephen grow further apart, and she begins to rely on Rolf to teach her about life as according to this, dwarf. And release and reception. Bill Gilbron of Pop Matters called the film insensitive, says it was clearly crafted as a wake-up call to all the nasty normals out there, but it substitutes schmaltz for sincerity to create a heated hate crime all of its own. So that's quite a scathing review. I don't think it did very well. It's only 90 minutes.
Well, it did.
Even though the director's cut is 150 minutes. So there you go.
It did so badly that like nobody knows that it exists, that's what makes it so unique, is that it's Gary Oldman and Matthew McConaughey. What year is it? Is it like 97 or something?
Let's see.
Does it say what year do you have there, John?
So it's not that old.
What? 2002.
And it's got it has a young Peter Dinklage as Maurice, Rolf's best friend.
Oh, of course. And it was one assumes it was I'm going to ask ChatGPT. One assumes it was a cinematic release, so it wasn't a straight to video.
I think that's right.
This is the weirdest thing of all the weird things I've written into ChatGPT, this is going to be one of the weirdest. Did Tiptoes come out at the cinema? Yes. Tiptoes, 2003, I guess was the release date. The infamous film starring Matthew McConaughey, Kate Beckinsale, and Gary Oldman was indeed released in cinemas, but had an extremely limited theatrical run. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, but due to poor reception and behind-the-scenes issues, I would love to hear about those. It was only It only saw a small release in theaters that year.
We really should be
theatrical
doing
release.
a whole episode on this because I've just read this sentence.
Yeah.
At the 2004 Sundance Film Festival, where the 90-minute version was screened, Bright, who was the director of the film, Matthew Bright, criticized the film and lambasted the producers for re-editing his film, leading them to drag him off stage. And he said, it says, subsequently, Bright would never direct another film. He later said the film's failure hurt his career. So there you go. Fucking amazing.
Fuck, mate, let's do a whole episode where we get him on. The way we could get him is we could say, what's his name again, John?
Matthew Bright, the director.
So what we'll do is we'll email Matthew and we'll say, Matthew, we want to give you the opportunity to tell your side of the story at last.
Yeah. We want you to spruik Tiptoes 2 for 2026.
Tiptoes 2 tippy toes. Just add the Y. Tiptoes European Vacation.
So
I just love doing it. I love doing like every episode. I want to just get the sequel byline European Vacation into everything.
Sad that David Lynch has just passed because I think he could definitely direct a good Tippy Toes. That'd be great.
Didn't he do? Was it him that did? No, I'm thinking of what's his face from Back to the Future. He did a film with not little people. He did a film with people with Downs. I think he just like did a Down syndrome people.
Oh yeah, right.
Or maybe
David Lynch could have done something like that. Don't know. Interestingly, Gary Oldman and David Lynch were both romantically involved with Isabella Rossellini. So there you go.
Oh man, and I don't blame them for a second. It was Crispin Glover I think, because after Back to the Future, Crispin just went full wacky artist, which I love. And also very famously, another great story, which I don't know if we've mentioned on the podcast, is that he successfully sued the producers of Back to the Future 2 for using his likeness and image when he had not given them permission to do so because because I think he had made a face cast for the original Back to the Future so that they could age him. And then when Back to the Future 2 came around, they said, Crispin, we'd love you to be in this movie. And he was like, nah, I'm a wacky artist now, so I'm not going to be doing your cheeseball family comedy action movies anymore.
Yeah.
And then they just said, okay, cool. And then they went and like dug his face cast out of the archives, I think.
Wow.
And then used that to the scene in Back to the Future 2 where they go into there's the futuristic home and like there's the young Michael J. Fox kid is like being a bit of a goofball, and Michael J. Fox by that stage is like the dad, and that's the hydrate level 4, please. You know, they rehydrate the pizza. It's that scene. And then Crispin Glover's character is in that scene, and I think that's right. And then he's upside down. I think isn't he the one that comes in on that contraption upside down,
walking along the roof? I don't know. And we've got some serious viewing.
But the point I was making, which is the important point I was making, is that the ruling in that case has like set this precedent about you not being able to use people's it was like a Screen Actors Guild thing, and it's like the Crispin Glover ruling. It's called the Crisp. It's called the Big Crisp.
There you go. I'm so excited for Tippy Toes coming out 2026, directed by Matthew Bright. And
we could have never known when we're talking about Saudi Arabia that we would end up with Bronson Pinchot. But that's the magic of Don't Praise a Machine, everybody.
That's right. That's right. What a great place to bring this weird, wild episode to a close, unless you have anything to add, Alexander Holland.
That was great. I love that, John. I'll say thank you so much. You got to get back to that cute little babby that's screaming out for you saying, please, Dad, please stop doing the podcasting. I
Stop.
need you to guide me in life.
Please, I need milk. Stop talking about obscure pop culture. That's enough and so much more.
Aren't I enough, Dad? Why do you need so much more? That's what you can say. Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, John Maloney. And we can't wait to see you next week, everybody.
The podcast.
Sha.